Good afternoon, Honorable Chairperson Sundstrom and committee members. I'm here to present three vehicle thefts policies for California. The first option is ground theft auto. This is the as-is policy that currently exists in California, which is characterized as a car owned without the consent of its owner and has a value over $950. The defendant can be charged for this when a defendant steals the car permanently or for a short period of time, relocates it, and keeps it long enough to decrease the value of the car. The penalty can be jail time for up to 1 year. Any offender who has a prior conviction or theft-related conviction based on their criminal record will be subject to an increase of the penalty. All in all, these cases of auto theft in California result in a felony charge when prosecuted. With this policy, an anticipated outcome that is to happen in California is that 151,244 vehicles were stolen at an estimated value of approximately $1.2 billion. However, this policy ensured that there was an 8.2% decrease from the 2018 total for vehicle theft statewide. The average rate of theft in 2019 was one vehicle for every 3.5 minutes. The budget cost for continuing this policy is $50 billion in order to support local law enforcement, the criminal legal system, and incarceration, state prisons, and county jails. Policy option number 2 would be implementing lenient guidelines for automobiles by the installment of electronic immobilizers and passenger vehicles registered for Californians. Having electronic immobilizers installed vehicles has benefited the United Kingdom, which decreased the vehicle theft crime ever since it has been mandated. The anticipated outcome would be that the installment of electronic immobilizers showed decreasing rates of vehicle theft by 48% when making a comparison to vehicles with no immobilizers and security devices. This would also feature an alarm, central locking, and vehicle tracking, as it has been that these devices were 25 times less likely to have this type of vehicle stolen. By mandating all vehicles in California to be registered with these devices as a policy, it will result as an effective safety measure to avoid having automobiles stolen. Given that there's already a current tax collecting structure in place to purchase a vehicle, no budget costs with this policy implementation will be required. In contrast, a policy implementing stricter guidelines for automobile theft would be a raise the age legislation. The raise the age policy stated that 16 and 17-year-olds were prosecuted as adults no matter what the offense was and were tried as an adult. The charge would be based for motor vehicle theft would be based on the value of the vehicle. Any car stolen must be valued in excess of $20,000. Under this legislation, juveniles would be tried for either Class A felonies or Class B felonies. Class A would include crime of murder, while Class B includes crimes of robbery, burglary, and motor vehicle theft in the first degree. For all the other offenses, 16 to 17-year-old offenders would be forced inside the juvenile justice system. The anticipated outcome for raised age implementation is that juvenile crime rates fell faster than the national average, and there were reductions in school suspensions, arrests, incarceration, and transfer of children to the adult system. Crime among older teenagers and young adults also fell, as keeping 16 to 17-year-olds in the juvenile system have led to a reduced rate of offending as they got older. Budget with this policy implementation would be $200 million because it supports the estimated state and local costs for comprehensive programs, which include diversion, probation, and other programming services for the youth that would be involved in the juvenile justice system. Taking a look at all these policies and a comparative evaluation of three criteria approaches. Effectiveness is always used because this is the ultimate point of this policy implementation. Social acceptability and political feasibility at the request of the committee, as these are good indicators of the reality of getting these policies in place. So for ground theft auto, effectiveness would be moderate because fines and penalties gradually increase as more offenses are done, With this same act, social acceptability criteria would be moderate because there's public support for more severe penalties. But the public has already been living with these policies for quite a while, so we figure that they are relatively acceptable. And offenders, political feasibility of this act is again moderate because there's some support for continuing these policies, and it's easier to leave things the same in many cases than change them. With the installment of electronic immobilizers, effectiveness is high because anti-theft measures and security devices on all new vehicles. It has proven that these thieves find it difficult to break inside a car. With this act, social acceptability would be high because civilians will not have to worry about having their car stolen. And by applying these devices, it will give them a chance to not have their car stolen. Additionally, the political feasibility of this act is high because it can be easy to mandate vehicles with the installment of electronic immobilizers. Lastly, the RTA legislation, which is raise the age, would be moderate in effectiveness because this act has gave stricter punishment for juveniles, but there's still some crime being committed. Contradicting the moderate effectiveness, this act would be low in political feasibility because of the overcrowding of jails and prisons. It may be too high, which is why it would be difficult to implement. Low social acceptability would come with this act because not many Californians enjoy paying taxes for prisoners or for those in jail. Thank you.